the students can really appreciate and glean from. So let's see what we do. I love that I actually can't see the audience.
We are live.
Oh, we are live. Hey, everybody. Welcome. Um, I wanted to, before we get started, my name is Garla Smith, and I am a career coach, and we have a wonderful virtual chat with our alum and some members from our program. But before we get started, I want you to share in the chat how energized you're feeling today. I was just sharing with the group, I'm at a 5 and I'm feeling good. So from 1 to 5, drop in your number and let us know how you're feeling, how energized you're feeling today. Yeah. All right. Well, while that's coming in, we have a great discussion planned for you. We have 3 alum who have graciously decided to give their time and share. All right. Oh, we got a 10, higher than a 5. All right. We got a 4. Good, good. Well, for those, looks like we got some high numbers. Good. All right. Well, for those that are not feeling too excited, we hope that this session will be very energizing for you and give you some ideas on how to jumpstart your career and land in the career that you want. Again, my name is Garla Smith. I'm a career coach with Career Services. And we have quite a few, probably team members on the call who are career coaches: Lawrence Tucker, Jonette Smith, Sonia Hayes, uh, Mia Kennedy, and Morgan Ray are all career coaches at a variety of campuses, and some offer virtual coaching sessions. So if you're in need of some support, please reach out to us at careers.waketech.edu. We are the career exploration team. We also have on the call Lauren Bamford, who is our employer relations coordinator, and she helps our students engage with employers. She connects with our employers on a regular, and she's going to be sharing later in the presentation how strategies that you can use to connect with career services. We also have 2 representatives from the programs that have partnered with us. Simulation and Game Development Department Head Ken Turner is here, and he will be sharing later in the presentation some insights on how you can launch your career and be successful in your studies. And then we also have Julie Evans, who is the Associate Professor for advertising and graphic design, and she will be doing the same, sharing her insights and best practices as well, if that's the career path that you choose. So, before we get started, I wanted to just share with you the purpose of this session. Number one, it is to help students and prospective students get awareness of creative careers, specifically those related to the gaming and advertising, graphic design industry. But our panelists are going to just give you some ideas, encouragement to know that if you are a creative person, there are career paths for you that will work. The second purpose of this session is to help you understand the importance of informational interviewing. Informational interviewing is basically where a job seeker or individual engages with someone who is already working in the field, and they get information about career paths, latest career trends. They build their network. And so today I'm going to do a very short information interview with our 3 panelists, and hopefully you can glean how to do one yourself. There should be in the chat a link to an informational interview how to guide and a template. We want you to click on it, download it, save it to your computer, and get engaged and find some individuals that you can do informational interviews with to give you good insight. All right. So Let's spend some time now getting to know our panelists, and I'd like to do some bios for them. Um, Let me back up just for a minute. For anyone that has questions, we want you to drop it in the chat. We will be monitoring the chat and trying to work them into our conversations to make sure that your questions get answered. Um, our panelists they are alum and they are amazing. I always, in an informational interview, I try and go and do some research and check out what social media and LinkedIn and all of these places say about our panelists, and their work is amazing, their track work is amazing. And so I thank you guys so much for being a part of this and sharing with your Wake Tech community and supporting your alma mater. All right, so our first panelist is Clarissa Epp. She is a double eagle class of 2016 and 2020. She is a self motivated and talented graphic designer. She specializes in visual branding and creative problem solving. She has degrees in Associates of Art and Advertising and Graphic Design, and she works at Wake Tech in a variety of roles. She's been a junior graphic designer and most recently a graphic designer. Austin Gowen is a technical designer who works at Blizzard Entertainment. He graduated from Wake Tech with a degree in simulation and game development. He has quite a few certifications that he acquired while he was here. Austin has been in the video gaming industry for 10 years and he's worked on several AA video games. And I had to look up what AAA was, and I realized that it is high budget, high profile games because I'm not a gamer. So I just thought that was amazing. He's an experienced developer and he's a lover of all genre of games and he loves a good challenge. All right. And then Jonathan Melchiotti, he is a senior game designer at Blizzard Entertainment, loves creating, collaborating, and crafting fun and compelling gameplay experience. He started out in the industry as a quality analyst in 2012, and he's worked on some amazing teams and contributed to multiple titles. Uh, in addition to designing games, John is mentoring new designers, students, and he even runs a game club where he invites everyone to come and talk, explore, and learn about the games that they play and that they love. So, welcome you guys for being a part of this. Let's get started. Um, our first question, and remember, this is an informational interview, so I'm going to ask you guys the same question. Clarissa, if you don't mind, I'd love for you to start it out. The very first question is, what does a typical work day look like for you? And can you include some hard and soft skills that you use that you feel are essential to the job?
Well, let me start by saying, hey, everyone. And the room that I'm in has censored lights. So if you see me moving around, it's not necessarily that I'm nervous. I'm actually just trying to make sure the lights don't go off. So there's that. But my job, I'm a graphic designer at Wake Tech, as Garla said. The major task of my job is pretty much to create high quality designs that promote Wake Tech's brand and value to the community. Some of the skills that are essential for me to have are communication skills, being detail oriented, being open to constructive criticism. And I say and being flexible, and I say that because I don't know how many times I've designed something that like was great. It was great for everybody in the office. Everybody thought it was good. And then, we send it to the client and they think it's great, but it may not work for a certain reason. So I feel like being flexible and open to criticism will make your life a lot easier in this field. And then some of the hard skills are obviously like the Adobe Creative Cloud. The main ones I use are probably InDesign, Illustrator, Photoshop, but I also use like Lightroom and After Effects as well. So
And do you find, Clarissa, that you're having to do professional development to keep up with these skills, or is work enough to kind of keep you going?
No, I think no, definitely. We're always learning something new. I'm always on YouTube, LinkedIn Learning. There's always something new to learn in this field. The apps are constantly updating. On top of trends are constantly changing. So yeah, I do think that's important.
Very good. Okay. All right. Austin, would you like to answer that question? What's a typical day look like for you? What are some of the skills that you're using?
Yeah, sure. First of all, I just wanted to chime in as well. I'm definitely a five. I'm chilling here at the beach at the moment. Been here for a couple of days, but it also means that there's a bunch of stuff going on in the background, like kids having fun and things and stuff. So if you hear anything going on, that's that's the reason for that. Typical day for me. Luckily, it tends to be um, almost never the same. In the technical design field, we help out pretty much every single group on the team. So that's art, that's programming, that's design. We're basically there to sometimes make content, but also to support others making their content and make it so that they have the easiest time possible doing what they need to do. So for example, if a level designer is trying to make levels and their tool set is not, takes them forever and a day to do something, we go in there, check it out, and then, we make it better and whatnot. And as far as hard and soft skills go, I'm probably going to echo a lot of what Clarissa said. I will put a pretty heavy emphasis on communication, being able to communicate with anyone and everyone, whether they're a cool person or an introvert or an extrovert, being able to both verbally and writing emails and messages and stuff like that, being able to just effectively communicate with all different sorts of people, I think is really, really way up there on important soft skills. Hard skills. Wake Tech taught me a lot of hard skills that I use. I mean, I'm a technical designer. I'm not a full-on programmer, but I use programming every day. Knowing how to write code, knowing how to make a 3D model, all of the different stuff that the simulation game development program teaches you on a base level is definitely very important stuff. But knowing the proprietary tools that Blizzard has for me to work with is definitely hard skills. And as Clarissa mentioned, that ability to adapt is definitely in the major tool set of a tech designer because you have to jump from thing to thing and be able to learn quickly.
Very good. I hear a theme of just being able to be flexible is common. John, how about you? Typical day, what it looks like, hard and soft
Hey.
skills. Hey.
Uh, so hard and soft skills. So for me, it generally depends on like what the role is for the project that I have. So like right now, I'm actually working with Austin, and I want to echo the really strong sentiment that soft skills are really important, especially when working from technical design or even just a general designer, because there is such a strong sense of collaboration to make something that you're constantly working and talking to artists, you're talking to producers, you're talking to engineers for features that essentially you want to be able to build these relationships as you're also building out these features, right? So it's great to be able to build those relationships and being able to just fluidly communicate, be on the same page constantly of like what's the expectation of this feature, of that feature. So a lot of conversations happen like in my day to day, and it's throughout different various people. And then from like hard skills, I mean, having some really good experience with engine tools and understanding like what those pipelines are like, what the workflows are, so that when you have those conversations with the people, you can be on the same page. Like, you know exactly how this thing works, how it goes in, how it comes out, how it plays, et cetera, et cetera. So it's really important that you have a full understanding of, or at least a really good understanding for what you're specifically doing, whether it's level design or system design, that again, you're able to collaborate and communicate what's going on essentially on your end. So
So I'm curious, and I have no real concept of any of your careers. Do you guys typically have a traditional 8 to 5 schedule, or does it vary? How does it a typical day? Is it you're in by 8, you're out by 5, or is again that flexibility needed?
It's typically on a daily basis, like 8 to 5 for me, but also flexibility as well. Sometimes there's events, for like photography and stuff like that, or just sometimes you just have a lot of work to do and you have to meet those deadlines. So,
Yeah, for I guess us, because we're kind of working on the same schedule, John and I. I mean, there are some kind of a core hour concept. So, like from 10 to 4, you're generally expected to be around, or at least tell somebody you're not going to be around. But other than that, I mean, you get to make up kind of your own hours. You obviously need to work a certain amount, but if I'm having a different morning, I don't have to be in at 8 o'clock. You know, I can take an extra hour or 2 hours to do what I need to do. Just tell people, hey, I'm having a morning, and that's not a big deal. It's very, very nice to have that flexibility. It makes the stress of what could be very stressful not stressful at all.
Yeah, and then a lot of my experience, essentially, they try to push a lot of autonomy and ownership on people, essentially, to essentially like, hey, here's your task, like, so it's kind of on you to really kind of figure out like what when you should be working a little bit more or a little less. But for the most part, like the expectation is really realistic and balanced in the sense that like typical core hours essentially are I don't know, like 10 to 5, where essentially we just use that as a way to arrange meetings. So we know for sure, like, hey, if we need a meeting, it's within this time frame, so that people are available and whatnot. So, and just like Austin saying, like, there's some definite flexibility, and it's really it's great. Like it's a real big relief to have some of that, especially when you're just having a bad day or kids are sick or whatever it may be. So
Okay, thank you so much. All right, let's move to the second question, and Clarissa, I'll throw it back out to you. How did you prepare to enter into your line of work? What kind of strategies or engagements or jobs, internships did you do to get into this graphic design field?
um, obviously, I went to school, and if it's mostly students on this stream, I would say like it's exactly what you're doing. If you're going to school, um, I feel like that's the best start. Talk to your instructors. They know they've been where you're at, and they can introduce you to people because they know so many people. While you're in school, if you can find an internship, I would say that that's so valuable. While at school, you're more so like learning the programs and you're learning the essentials of design and stuff like that. The internship shows you what it's like when you're actually working in the field, and like you learn so much. I would say like coming to info sessions and conferences and different things like that, getting on YouTube and finding people that you're inspired by. Um, all those things. Those are the ways that I got ready to be in this field. And then how I got landed this position was, I don't know if anybody's ever heard of a program called Fostering Bright Futures, but I was in that program and I was really close to the program coordinator there, and she was really close to the people in marketing and communications. And so they heard I was looking for an internship and they were looking for someone to intern. So it just kind of worked out perfectly. Um, and another thing I would say is take your project seriously. I can't stress that enough. I know students are busy. I was one. I was one that was really busy, but you want your portfolio to be the best that it can be, because that's something that you're going to show everyone that you're trying to get a job with. You're going to be showing that in interviews, and it just follows you. Your portfolio follows you, and it takes a lot of time. So use the time while you're in school to make it look as best as it can be. And also networking as well, because it's not always about what you know, it's about who you know most of the time. So that's what I would say.
Yeah, and I mean, you just gave a prime example of networking. You said you knew somebody who knew someone in marketing, and that led to the internship. Yeah,
Hmm.
that's great. All right, Austin, how about you? How did you prepare to enter into this line of work?
Well, During my time at Wake Tech, I think most people in the simulation and game development, whether it's talked about or not, are always hopefully keeping their ear open for any opportunities, right? Um, Preparing for an opportunity because you might not exactly know what it is, and I'll share what my first opportunity was here in a second. Um, you may be focused on exactly what you want to do. If you want to be an artist and you're honed in on an artist, and that's great. You're looking for art opportunities. For me, um, I I was open to everything. I wanted to get into the gaming industry, and I knew that if I could get in anywhere, I could transition myself to where I wanted to be and figure out, during that process, what I wanted to be. Because, like I said, that you go through the simulation game development program, you get to touch all the parts of how to make a game. And so, to prepare myself for potentially any of those options, I just at any opportunity went to do any of those things, and just going to create a game is such a crazy fast learning experience. Like I went to game jams, which if you don't know what those are, they basically are a 48-hour, usually a 48-hour time where you get a theme of a game and then just say go, and you have 2 days to make a game with whomever wants to make a game with you, and you split up in little groups and you make a game. And that taught me so much so quickly. And so doing things like that was really how I prepared. But the first opportunity I ever got was somebody came in to one of my classes in Wake Tech and just went up on the board and wrote this like opportunity for just this. It was a co-op, I guess, which is like mostly an internship. But it was for a military simulation software development company. It was like tank mechanics needed a way to work on tanks without actually having to mess with the parts. So they made this simulation. And it was incredibly boring. But it gave me the experience that I needed in testing these like 400-step process to replacing a tank engine. And so I got all of those just transferable skills, which led me to get a job in an actual video game industry. So for me, it was kind of anything and everything that had to do with making a game. That's the tools, that's the processes, that's everything.
Very good. I hear again that theme of just being flexible and open to anything and and willing to try it. Love it. John, how about you?
So it's kind of similar vein with both Clarissa and Austin. It was pretty open to anything. For me, it was like, man, I really want to go do this thing. Please let me in. Right? It's very much like that meme, the guy holding the gates. But like, I think my first kind of step was like doing QA for mobile phones, like for games on mobile phones back when you had flip phones too. So it was super boring. And then once I got into like a pretty major studio, essentially, I was actually just doing like Facebook tile clicking games or whatever, and that was something else. But like essentially, it was just looking at opportunities that were there and just something to kind of build my resume up and have a better understanding of the inner workings of development and stuff, whether it's a mobile game or whether it's like actual PC or web browser game, right? Just something. And that was kind of like what my approach was for how I was trying to prepare. And then with that, I was actually at Wake Tech and just kind of, it was really awesome to just have the space and time dedicated to just sit down and learn the tools and like explore that and understand like how this all fits together, what stuff that I didn't think about that is actually there, and then being able to take all of that and have conversations that work with other developers that have been in the industry over a while and get some insight from their end. I'm like, hey, or even just like doing some schoolwork, like, hey, I'm doing this LD, like this level design. What are your thoughts? And getting some feedback from there, and just like having an opportunity and an avenue to just open up a conversation with them and build rapport that way too. So it was really helpful.
Very good. And John, you said you engaged with other developers. Mm-hmm. These were other developers at Wake Tech, or was it a network, or how was it?
Sorry, so other developers at the studio I was working at. So while I was in school, I actually had a QA opportunity. So I was actually, getting some feedback from other level designers.
Gotcha. Okay, very good. Yeah, again, that networking piece, right?
Yeah.
And collaboration. Okay, good deal. So, our last question, and for our audience, informational interviews can be anywhere from 5 to 7 questions. They run 20 to 35 minutes. But because we have a panel of three, we've narrowed it just down to 3 questions, but you can for sure always do more. Our third question is, can you, Clarissa, can you tell us how you landed in your role? And I think you kind of alluded to it a little bit. And if there are other career steps, excuse me, what are the career steps that landed you there? And if you've thought about where you're headed?
Mm. Yeah, so I did kind of touch on how I landed the position, and like I said, it was school, internship, and then I just kind of worked my way up by like having a positive attitude, showing up every day, being open, and then that's how I moved up to junior graphic designer, and that was part time, and then it was junior designer full time, and then it was graphic designer. So, I just kind of worked my way up to get to this level. And as far as where I'm headed, that's a tough question. I mean, I feel like graphic designers learn so much. We learn about graphic design, photography, videography, and then we have all these skills, and we're like, which one do we want to do? I feel like I love all of them. I love photography. I love videography. I love graphic design, and they all go hand in hand. But if I don't continue to do graphic design, then I might veer off and do videography or photography. I definitely use my camera a lot outside of work. So there's so many ways that I can go. I'm not quite sure yet, but yeah, I'm not quite sure yet where I'm headed, but maybe working for myself.
Okay,
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah. I know that that was not necessarily like a question that we talked about, but you are so talented, and I've seen your work on,
Mhm.
Wake Tech, which you're going to share in a little bit, as well as online. And I love that you have so many options, and that Wake Tech gave you so many options just in your training. So that's phenomenal that, you got options. All right, Austin, how about you? How'd you land in the current position? Because you started out at Red Storm and one other spot, right? And then you landed at Blizzard.
Yeah, that's correct. I talked about somebody coming into one of my Wake Tech classes and just writing the opportunity up on the board for that military simulation place. I didn't even know what it was. All that I heard was, "Hey, here's a potential opportunity that has transferable skills into the gaming industry." It wasn't verbatim, but that's the message that I got for somebody who wrote this up on the board. And I kind of waited a second for them to leave, and then I kind of waited because I was at the back of the class. I was gonna like get in line to go like take down this information, but there wasn't a line. Nobody even looked at it, and so I was like, okay. And so I just went and got down the information, whatever, and I called, and I was the only applicant as far as I knew. But they liked me anyway. I did the interviews, whatever, and that job, even though it was seemed like far away from video games, got me testing experience. And then about a year later, Red Storm called me up because I had also interviewed with their recruiting agency, Volt. Volt Workforce Solutions is like they hire people to be potential testers for people that are on the Triangle. So Epic Games uses them, I think, and Red Storm uses them, and maybe some other studios. Um, but they called me up about a year later. I was like, "Hey, do you play guitar?" And I was like, uh, yeah, who is this?" Like, I was confused as to why Red Storm was calling me asking if I could play guitar. But it was for a video game called Rocksmith, where you plug an actual guitar into your console and you can learn guitar that way and stuff. And it was really cool. So when I had the interview for that job, I was able to tell them all the stuff that I had done at this military simulations place. And the guy interviewing me, the manager, was like, "Yeah, you're probably overqualified for what we need you for, but if you want to do the job, like, cool, we'll take you. And so it was that, like, I didn't want to go do tank mechanic stuff, but I knew even when that person walked in the classroom, I just needed something. I was using the shotgun method. I was like, this is something that can get me experience. I'm going to go for it because I just wanted to be in the game industry. I just knew once I got my foot in, I can talk to people, I can learn things. I just needed to be there. So that's how I got essentially started. 8 months after I got the contract job at Red Storm, they hired me on full time. Um, and then yeah, and then from there it was just working at Red Storm for a long time. I just got to Blizzard about 5 months ago, and it was just an opportunity that was presented, and I felt like it was going to be a just a benefit to me to branch out and learn new new genres of games with new tools and new people, just to make me a better developer overall.
Love it. Love it. I love how just that one start at Wake Tech just gave you so many skills that just have allowed you to just move. That is fabulous. All right, John, how about you?
So I said I started at QA essentially at Red Storm working on like some Facebook game. And what ended up happening was we started working on a Rainbow Six project. And I was still QA there. It was a lot more exciting. But at some point, I had some extra downtime and I had just learned the tool set because a lot of the time, a lot of these tools they have like internal pages on instructions on how to use the tools and whatnot. So I pretty much just like during lunch, I would just learn how to make levels. And then using the time that I had spent at Wake Tech with like learning how to use SketchUp, I started making levels for one of the games that were still in production during my free time. And I was just getting feedback. So essentially, it was just through like a lot of self motivation to just learn new things and collaborate essentially. Because at some point, I started asking some feedback, and we play tested it. And then at some point, like one of the directors for the project had came in from like Montreal and played my level for a new game that we were launching, and it was like all positive feedback all around, and it felt super good. It was pretty incredible. And then from then on, I got hired on as a level designer. And I got to work on Far Cry 4. So it was pretty nuts and some crazy opportunities that kind of showed up. But it was really just like I really want to learn this thing. Let me sit down and figure out how to do this. If I don't know, I need to get over myself and go ask questions, right? Because I'm kind of like a little bit of a shy person. So just kind of really building up myself internally to just like be open to like have conversations and stuff was like a really big skill for me to learn throughout those early years. And it's helped out and paid out a lot. So, and then as for that, I was over at Red Storm for a while, and then I got an opportunity over at Vicarious Visions, which is now Blizzard up here in New York. And so I'm here. I'm over here at Blizzard. I'm having a good time.
Yeah, that's fabulous. Just your motivation, self motivation, kind of got you going, and it sounds like it continues to serve you.
Oh yeah, like I mean, I think from any creative outlet, I think you're always learning. I think there's so much overlap with everything that you want to do that like it's also kind of fun just to dive into something new that's integrated into the work that you do. And you're like, oh, cool! I learned this new thing how to do this, and I want to teach some other people how to do it too, or get to put that into make some new cooler stuff. So
Yeah.
always learning.
All right. Austin, really quick, can you share if you were recruited for your most recent job or if you applied in the most traditional sense?
Sure, yeah. I it's an
If you're able to share.
interesting example. No, it's totally fine. I was I received a phone call from Jon Melchiade. He said, "Hey, we have a tech design team here at Blizzard, and we're looking for tech designers, and I think you'd be good for the job." So that was the initial contact, and then after that, I went through the whole process of multiple series of interviews and um, talking to a bunch of people from a bunch of different disciplines. And, the final decision. That's the who portion that we're talking about here is that networking. But yeah, it wasn't something I was looking for. I was definitely happy with the work I was doing at Red Storm, but I'm glad that I received the call because I feel now like I want to go and branch out and get my skill set, further developed.
Okay, good. Thank you so much for that follow up. We have a couple of questions in the chat, I think, about portfolio. I want to get to you guys showing your portfolio, and then we'll try and make sure we address those questions. So, um, you guys are in creative careers, and I think it would be a tragedy if we didn't show some of your creative pieces. So, Jon, how about we share your work first, and maybe you just kind of talk us through some of the things that um, you've
Sure.
done. So let's show Jon's slideshow.
Okay. We can go to the next slide. So this is just kind of like an overview of like what my career was like. So after from QA, I was an associate level designer. I worked on a bunch of PvP stuff for Far Cry, and then I worked on a division as a tech designer. As I made that shift essentially, and kind of continued that into Star Trek Bridge Crew, which is a VR game. We can go to the next slide. So this is kind of where a lot of my creative I don't know, fabrications like really I really enjoyed. So when I went up here to Vicarious, I got to work on Destiny 2, and specifically in Destiny 2 there are missions that take place that I designed. One of them was a for an exotic weapon, which is a very renowned weapon that's used in the community. Essentially, there's a big backstory and a bunch of fiction stuff to it, and people really adore this game. So I had the opportunity to make a new quest that has fiction and canon to this whole franchise, which was really exciting. I think it's on the next slide. Yeah. So what you're seeing here is just some captured footage that I found of someone playing on YouTube. But the idea was essentially, as like a designer and making these missions, like we want to create some really cool experiences that really live up to what the story we're trying to tell. And for this one, this gun itself has a story, and it's a really big thing for the franchise. So this gun essentially is very much like from a gunslinger. So for me, I wanted to really make it feel like you're having a duel with your opponent. And you can see here through mechanically, you're having these monsters appear and you're having a shootout. And essentially, if you fail, you start over. And so you're kind of seeing progress through the level as I'm setting up encounter spaces and whatnot as you progress through until you defeat the boss, which essentially is 3 shadow clones of himself. So it's very much a lot of what I wanted to hit was just like this feel of like a Wild West. You have this really special gun that's in the fiction of the game, and you're having a shootout, and you get the hurrah at the end, and you get the special weapon. So
Wow. Wow. I so appreciate you sharing it. Like I said, I'm not a gamer yet, but it is so impressive, the work, and I can't imagine all that goes into this, from the art design to the programming to the
it's a
level
lot
design.
of
It
people.
is,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
is a
It's a
lot of
lot of
people.
people to make this happen.
Love it.
And some other stuff that I've worked on. I worked on Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2, working on the Creative Skater stuff. So a lot of stuff. I worked on the system design essentially. So even though I get to do some stuff in game that you see, there's some stuff that I work on that you don't really get to see. Sometimes it's just documentation on how the system is supposed to work. So essentially my job on Tony Hawk was to create the layout and what the approach was that we wanted to take for the Creative Skater. So we wanted to make sure that you can still have access to the brands that you used to have back in the original ones. How does that integrate the board decoration? Trying to find some better ways to make the game more inclusive, essentially, when you're designing your character out, different hairstyles, skin tones, et cetera, et cetera. And then what I'm doing now currently is on Diablo 4, where I'm working with Austin as a technical designer. It was my role on the project. So
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much for sharing that.
yeah.
Um, there was a question in the chat about a portfolio. Uh, One of our viewers said, I'd be interested in hearing about building portfolios and or social media presence. So This is not technically considered your formal portfolio, but as a professional, I imagine you keep one, correct?
I try to.
Okay.
It's a little harder in our sense when it comes to design because essentially you're almost waiting for all the pieces to come together. So
Gotcha.
when you get a portfolio, it's when the thing's getting ready to get out the door. Some and on top of that, there's also some NDA hurdles you have to go through. So
Yeah.
there are practices internally that are done, especially for like artists. It's really smooth from my understanding. Essentially, as you're building stuff, you can essentially take screenshots of what your pieces are. It goes through a process internally, and now you can start sharing that on your art spaces essentially once the game kind of gets pushed out. So it's totally doable. And as for like a social media aspect, you see stuff on Twitter a couple times a year. I forget what it's called, but I think it's a blockout day where you see game developers share some in progress stuff that where they can, whether it's like level design or whether even some of like the AAA games, they'll get clearance to share like a whole mission sequence in blockout. So there's like no textures, no nothing. It's really simple gameplay, and you kind of get to see like where it is in development and then to where you see it in a finished product. So I've been trying to get better about like just taking screenshots and just making some videos of like where I'm at with my designs and stuff, and then you get to see the final product. So
Gotcha. Okay, very good. Thank you. All right. Austin, we'd love to see some of your creative work. Let's see if we can get your presentation up.
Sure. I don't have any super fancy gifts like John here, unfortunately. Um, yeah, we kind of already did some of this intro stuff, but this is basically my work here. Rocksmith on the left was the game that I talked about that I started out as really cool game, and then transitioned to Far Cry 4. Still in the QA portion of my career, and then my day one being hired on full time was my start on the Tom Clancy's The Division franchise. So I worked on Division One and Division Two, and the yet to be released Tom Clancy's The Division Heartland. And then obviously transitioning from Ubisoft to Blizzard, worked on Diablo 4, and that's what I'm currently doing. Um, if we get into the next slide, we can talk a little bit more about um, some of this stuff. Again, we kind of went through, and if anybody was wondering, not to harp on you, Garla, because I know you're still learning. You're still trying to figure out what your favorite video game is, right? Um, the AAA titles is what I worked on. The AA titles, I think, are a separate category. Um, but that's basically what that's there for. If we go to the next slide, we can talk a little more about some of the stuff that I've done. That's more of the focus on here. Um, I think that also there was a question in chat as far as like, what's the work? Well, what's it like to work and talk to different people on a day-to-day basis? And some of this um, kind of touches into that. So the first one says Rockstar Desks because my work on Rocksmith was so cool to me because I would come into work and I would have my Xbox 360 and my PS3 and my Ibanez and my Fender Stratocaster, and it just looked like a rock star's desk, and it was so cool to just come into work and do that sort of stuff. Dark Zone Madness, my work on Division at Red Storm was heavily integrated with the Dark Zone, and that's on Division 1 and Division 2. If you don't know, I've never played the game. The Dark Zone in these games are where the PvP happens, and so you can really run into anybody in these portions of the city and just engage almost immediately in PvP. Um, and I was responsible for creating pretty much all the activities that happened for Division 2 inside of Dark Zone West, which was there was a couple of different Dark Zones. So Dark Zone West was my baby, and so I set up all the patrol paths and all of the the encounters, and I made everything that you go in there and you fight and you engage in was set up by me. Um, and helicopter ambushes, something else that I worked on. In the division, what you do is you go inside the dark zone, you collect loot. But inside the dark zone, this loot is contaminated, so you have to shoot a flare to the air and have a helicopter drop in and pick up your loot and take it out of the city so it can be decontaminated and you can use it later on. And one of the things that I did, which is in the game now, is that when you shoot the flare up in the air, instead of your friendly neighborhood helicopter coming to get your loot, there was the other enemy faction in the game called the Last Man Battalion who had helicopters as well. And they would show up as a little surprise party instead of your friendly helicopter, and you'd have to like deal with them dropping in and big dudes with rocket launchers and miniguns shooting at you when you thought all was going to be safe. That was one of the fun things that I can talk about that I got to design and implement into the game. We had Smash Bros. Tournaments in the office, which was awesome. I really.
Uh-oh.
Oh no, we lost him.
I think we lost Austin. Well, he'll be back. Oh, there you go.
There he is.
All right.
Sorry, where did I lose you?
I think you were at Smash Brothers or Top of the Line Tools.
I'll make this a little quicker in case that drops out again. I again, with other cool stuff that you get to do as a video game developer, I got to go to E3, fan expos in Toronto, Canada. We got to demo the Division, meeting a lot of famous people, and that God, I can't think of his name now. Daryl from Walking Dead was at the fan expo, and a bunch of other people who love video games and are interested in them. And then on the Division Heartland, the work that I did, I was head of all the AI in the game and how they work, and that was super super awesome. It was really really complicated stuff, but again, I love a challenge, and so I got in there to learn some of the Division AI, and built our own faction for that game. And then I also on Division 2 got to design entire missions, just like Jon was saying. So the intro mission for Dark Zone West, where you have to go in and do a whole bunch of stuff and discover the Dark Zone so that you can play PvP in there. I got to do all of that. And the next slide, I think, is just if anybody has questions, but we'll get to that later. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Austin. I appreciate it. All right, Clarissa, we're going to share your work. And I loved when I looked at it, the preview, because I recognized, oh, I've seen that. So let's bring up Clarissa's presentation or her PDF.
Yeah, so I don't have a fancy presentation like everyone else, but I did throw some things together for you all to see. So this right here is just some of the digital graphics that I've worked on. The Eagle Zone studio. If you go to Wake Tech, you may know there's a studio in the libraries at Main and North that you can go in and kind of record your own stuff. The Reach and Rally virtual run, that is a run that happened during COVID, and that's like, the medal that you would win. I think they also did like physical medals as well. So and then also I have just an invitation that I did for the Thank a Hero event, and those two things on the bottom left are just like Instagram stories that I've done for different departments here at Wake Tech. One of them is for advising, Teal Tuesdays, and the graphic on the right is another digital graphic that I did just to try to get students to complete a survey. And then if you go to the next page, this is more so some of the print stuff that I've worked on. And the bifold brochure on the left is just a brochure for the foundation. And it's something that they use to kind of describe what they do and how you make an impact when you donate money to the college and things like that, and just some of their numbers. And on the top right is a postcard that I did for current students, just to kind of promote, like let them know you're doing a great job and we want you to come back. So just, again, promoting the college and things like that. On the bottom right is something I created during COVID for our virtual support center, which was something that was, came up during COVID. We needed ways to reach out to students and let them know that we're here to help. And so that was just, a rat card that I had put together. And then if you scroll down, this is just some of the like interior design, like graphics that I've done for the college. If anybody has been to Brunchology, it just opened not long ago. So I did all the graphics that are inside of there. This is just some of them. But that's like the main splash wall that you see right there on the top left. And it's just kind of like the Raleigh skyline combined with the state of North Carolina. And like if you other people would probably never know this, but like you can see that there's a tree kind of in the background, and that's the tree that's actually on campus and it's been there for years. So there's little things in the design like that. And the graphic on the bottom is just like a yard sign that I did that we can put around campus so people know, hey, it's open now. Besides everything else that we're doing for it. So
Yes, I have definitely seen brunchology signs around South Campus. And actually, I've been over there. I'm going to go back and just study your work because it's very, very beautiful. Yeah.
thank you so much.
Okay, so I would love for our programs who have graciously partnered with us on this event to just share a little bit about insight in getting work and how to do well in this program. We have enrolled students and prospective students on the call, and I'm sure they would love to hear from you. So, Ken, I'll let you start off.
Okay. I'll be happy to start. I'm Ken Turner. I'm the department head for simulation and game development at Wake Tech. Prior to being department head, I was lead instructor on quite a few classes. Both John and Austin are some of our illustrious alumni, so it's good to see them. And even prior to that, I worked in the game industry. I've been active for over 20 years. I too worked at Red Storm and Ubisoft, and did some Department of Defense stuff. So I tend to bring a lot of my experiences, both in the industry for simulation and video games, to teaching. Um, I'm sure Austin and John can both attest. I tell lots and lots and lots of stories about how it was and how it is, and things that happen. And but the biggest thing is networking. It's been mentioned before. I'm going to mention it again. I tell all students when I was teaching day one, because I teach our intro class, um, I'm going to tell you something. Networking is important. And I also teach the very last class they take, the capstone class. And I asked them in that capstone class, do you remember what I said day one in your first class? Networking is important. And I make sure that all of the faculty reinforce that. Now, I think it was Austin that said Wake Tech specifically did really well in all the hard skills. Um, it's the soft skills as well. Communication is huge. That's been touched on several times across the board. So having very good communication, having very good hard skills on what you've done. I've been watching the chat and answering some questions when I can. It doesn't matter what software you use. I know Blender was being talked about. We're actually incorporating that into quite a few of our classes. Um, it's becoming industry standard now. So it doesn't matter whether it's free or not. The biggest game engines, Unity and Unreal, are free. So it's not the cost of the software, it's what you can produce. So having a good portfolio, having a good, you know, what can I do for you type attitude to show the company that you will be a valuable asset is something that will help you beyond anything else. So being able to show off your stuff. Um, in and I was just going to glance. Oh, thank you. The SGD website is up in the chat. Uh, so if anyone wants to look, it lists all of our classes that we have. We've got some new classes, some cutting edge in photogrammetry, We have some motion capture classes. We have a very nice motion capture studio in our department now. You know, a small little.
Sorry, go ahead.
Partnered up with NC State, and they've come and already borrowed it for some of their projects. So we're trying to teach cutting edge stuff. We're staying, you know, on top of this thing. I see that Rachel in the chat has asked, is there an SGD Discord to join? There is a game club Discord to join. I do not have the link for that. We are working on revamping the entire Discord for fall, so that we will have a Discord channel for the entire department. So eventually, Rachel, probably fall. We're putting the kinks out of it now. We're testing it right now for our final project class during the summer.
Good deal.
But I think that answers that, Carla. I could go on forever about how to prepare and how to get ready. And you know, as Austin and John has said before, you know, no job's too small. Get that experience, get that, you know, get that effort moving in, and learn everything you can. There's no reason, none, zero, that if you're interested in a game industry job that you're not making games right now, that you're not researching games, not playing games, making games and learning the systems behind them. That is going to be the key. Portfolios, networking.
I just wanted to jump in, if you don't mind, and just say something. I think it's actually pretty incredible, like hearing all the stuff that you're saying, that you guys have a motion capture. Because back when we were in school, we had bare bones nothing, and let alone trying to find guidance. Like that was probably the biggest struggle for me, was finding guidance on what am I doing, what am I supposed to do, what can I explore. I think that's probably the biggest thing I'm most grateful about, is having the tools available to explore and find out what I wanted to do during that career. So I appreciate it.
Well, thanks, John. And we definitely try. Thanks, Wes. We definitely try to provide, and again, we offer as many things as we can, as many topics as we can. We want you to be able to explore the spectrum of what you can and cannot do. It's okay to fail. Just give it a shot and see how it works.
Right.
I mean, nobody really knows what they want to do when they grow up. I still don't,
Right.
but you know, you try new things.
Yeah. Well, let's let Julie from advertising and graphic design drop her insight, and then I want to make sure we hear from Lauren, because Lauren has a touch on all the employers that are coming through Wake Tech. So, Julie, go ahead. You're on mute.
Yes, thank you very much. We've touched on the hard skills, like in graphic design, industry standard software like Adobe Creative Cloud is expected for our students. But in our advertising and graphic design degree program, students learn the fundamentals of design and practice what they learn through hands-on projects. And many times they work with actual clients from the community. Design projects may include logos or identity systems, packaging, maybe even for games, event materials, various publications, social media marketing campaigns, video editing, photography, mobile app design, and building responsive websites. So we have a lot of different skills coming into the degree program. Clarissa mentioned the benefits of an internship, and work-based learning is an elective for our program. I'm the faculty coordinator for graphic design students. So if anyone's interested, JC Evans 4 at waketech.edu. Students can earn academic credit through internship or employment in a design-related role. in the program. And our capstone for the degree program is a portfolio design program. And that's where the students produce their professional portfolio and website that's going to give a potential employer a snapshot of their talents and skills. And social media is a requirement for our portfolio students as well, since self-promotion is a great way to establish credibility online and get noticed. We have a social media course in the class. It's pretty comprehensive. And so our students also look good on paper. We have them work with career services one-on-one for mock interviews and resume reviews during that class. Our program can be completed entirely online. We offer some seated courses on Southern Wake campus in our Mac and PC labs. And in addition to faculty support, the Individualized Learning Center, ILC, or CompuTutor offer one-on-one tutoring services to support students in person or online. So our department has a Twitter and Instagram channels, as well as a private LinkedIn group to stay connected to our alumni, where we share jobs and opportunities and new stuff. And we felt that would be a nice bridge. So once they're graduated, we don't want to lose them. We want to stay in touch and support them as much as we can. The program packs a ton into 2 short years, but AIGA Raleigh's past student portfolio reviews have demonstrated that our students can stand toe-to-toe in competition with 4-year university graduates. And we are proud of our program, and we are so proud of successful graduates like Clarissa, who represent us so well in the community and on the job.
And if you're thinking about joining, Julie is amazing. She's an amazing instructor. Seriously.
Thank you.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much, Julie, for that comprehensive overview of the program and all the support you provide. Everybody has talked about internships. Austin, you talked about acquiring a position through Volt, taking opportunities where you can. Lauren, share with us through career services, what are the options for students for getting relevant work experience?
Sure. Yeah. So one of our main resources is our online job board. So Wake Tech has its own online job board through a platform called College Central Network. And I'll get that in the chat for you. Oop, it just popped up right now. So if you head there and get yourself registered, it's a really easy registration process. You will have access to full-time jobs, part-time jobs, internship opportunities, where employers are specifically coming to Wake Tech. They're looking for Wake Tech students and Wake Tech alumni. So once you are with us here at Wake Tech, you have access to that job board for the rest of your life. So, these are opportunities where, again, employers are looking for you specifically. So definitely hop on there if you haven't been on there before. I've also popped our career services website in the chat as well. So there are folks who are here to help you get your resume reviewed, prepare for an interview, help you with just overall job search strategies. If you're looking to update your LinkedIn, we've also got folks who can help you with that. So head to that link to make an appointment with some of those folks. In employer relations, I also coordinate info sessions with employers as well. Those can be virtual or in person. And I know that everybody on this call today talked a lot about networking and the importance of networking. These info sessions are a great way to meet with employers face to face, whether it's virtual or in person, and really kind of begin that networking process. We also coordinate career fairs. Our larger career fairs are in the spring semester in February, but we also from time to time have smaller hiring events throughout other semesters as well. And if you are curious as to where to find out about all of these events that we're putting on, there's a couple different places you can go. You can go to the online job board, actually, and we do post some of those events there. We'll also post them to our Twitter, which I've put the handle in the chat, and our Instagram as well, which is in the chat as well. So head on over to those locations and we'll be posting the events there too. And Garla, I'll toss it back to you.
Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate all of you. There were a couple of questions that were in the chat that I'm not sure actually got answered. One was from Samantha Klein about, I think this one was directed to you, Clarissa. In your graphic design career, can you describe a mistake that turned into an important learning experience? And I actually think that's an interesting question for everybody on the panel. If you had a short version, we'd love to hear it because we learn from our mistakes, right?
Yeah, I mean I think that's the best way to learn. I would say the biggest mistake that I've made in my career is probably just not taking my project seriously as I should have when I was in school. Just because I was busy. I was working two jobs, you know, and I was a student that was working. So I would do my projects, but not every single one did I put in as much effort as I could. Gratefully, it didn't really bite me. It didn't come back to bite me because I mean, here I am, but it has like today because like now when I go to update my portfolio, like for me, some of the work in there is like, all right, it's pretty good, but I'm like so much better now. So I just feel like I have to redo the whole thing versus just, you know, updating a few here, updating a few there. And that is a lengthy process. So I would just say that's probably my biggest mistake. So when you're in school, take it seriously. Like if you have to put the jobs to the side, put the jobs to the side. And just, you know, take it super serious. And then as a designer, when you're designing things, a lot of times you'll make mistakes like by accident and you'll realize like, hey, that actually looks good. Like that stuff like that happens all the time too, just on a smaller scale. But yeah, that's what I would say. Just take your work seriously. And that was probably the biggest mistake that I made.
Okay, love it. John, Austin, before we wrap up, you want to chime in on any mistakes that you made that actually shifted and really turned out to be learning experiences?
Sure. I think one of the mistakes I kind of caught myself early on was not advocating for myself early on about like, I mean, when we talk about career, just kind of like when we're talking about raises and stuff and how we're progressing through that stuff, just making sure that you kind of really acknowledge like where you're at, your growth, and seek guidance, like being open to just talking about it and seeing like what you want to do and be outspoken with like your managers and stuff. Like, where do you see yourself? Like, what do you really want to be doing? And just because you never know what opportunities there are. There's been plenty of times where like there was a role in a different project and they're like, because I said something, they're like, well, what about this? Okay, cool. And there's an opportunity for growth there. So I think it's just really being able to just be open and talk to people and collaborate essentially and about what for yourself, essentially what's best.
Love it. Thank you.
Yeah, I would say something that was a learning experience to me pretty early is that every time I would go to do something, and whether it was because I had 56 other things to do or whatever the reasons were, if I ever decided to not do something all the way, or cut a corner or something like that, like in the gaming industry, everything moves fast, and sometimes you have to do what you need to do to get a feature completed or get something out the door. But when you have the time to do something the right way, and for me, whenever I didn't, whether it was a little tiny bit or a lot of it, it always came back to bite me in the butt every single time. And so eventually I was like, no, I'm doing things like quality over quantity. If I have the time to do this right, I'm going to do it right because I know it's going to benefit me, times 1,000 in the future. And so that was definitely something that uh, I learned pretty early and made sure to correct for the rest of my career.
Love it. And I think that is just a great workplace learning experience and criteria that we have, whatever career we're in. Do work that is excellent, do it to the best of your ability each and every time. I hope we got to all of the questions. If we did not, by all means, send an email through. I think it is. Our website is on careers.waketech.edu. You're welcome to send an email and we will make sure it gets to the right person to get your questions answered. To my panelists, I thank you so much for pouring back into the Wake Tech community. We appreciate you and thank you. And to my program representatives, thank you for sharing and encouraging and giving guidance to our prospective as well as our enrolled students to help them continue to be successful. And Lauren, thank you. It's a joy to work with you. And we look forward to our audience reaching out to us. Career Services is here to support you in any way that we can. All right, we're going to wrap it up. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Thanks,
Thank you
everyone.
so much.
Good luck to everyone.